What's going on, everybody? I'm Ari Temkin. We're live on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media. I want to thank you all for joining us and being a part of today's show. A reminder, if this is your first time, I am streaming live every single day at noon Central right here on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media, where we are delivering live sports content and live sports to the social platforms, to Facebook, to YouTube, to Twitter, to Twitch, all these places you are. That's where we're delivering live sports content. Also, thanks to our great partners at Phantom, Big Game James, Law Nation, Silver and Blue Nation, kind enough to lend me their platforms to cross-post this broadcast on those pages as well. And I want to thank everybody watching across all those channels. So thank you very, very, very much for joining us today. Tyler Cutright says, yo, what up, Tyler? How are you? Andy Caius, Ari, man, myth, legend, or just Ari, man. How about that? Let's just stop there. Tim Sihan here, Peter Martinez, and Jenna Garcia as well joining the show. A quick reminder, thank you all for listening and checking out the show. I was hosting the morning show, replacing Sean Sharif, who was on vacation this week, so I was really excited to be able to be on that show, the morning show on 105 through the Fan, so I was on all week. Despite what this looks like, which is tired and worn down and weary, it was a fun week, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to be going to Oxnard, California in a couple of weeks with those guys, where the show starts at 3:30 in the morning. The only thing worse than a 5:30 in the morning showtime start is doing that on the West Coast. So that should be fun. And then the week after that, RJ Choppy will take his vacation, so I will be in with Sean Sharif that entire week. So excited about that. And then, of course, I made the announcement yesterday on this show and publicly that I will be the new pregame and postgame host for the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. So very excited about all that. So getting you closer and closer to the Dallas Cowboys. Make sure to subscribe. Check out, I've got a Cowboys podcast called The Cowboys Beat. You can check it out on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you watch, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then streaming every day right here on Phantom, facebook.com/Watch Phantom. And though it'll be more of a Dallas-centric show, certainly the majority of the conversations will stem from the Dallas Cowboys. Jeremy Turner Montgomery in the house. JTM, what's going on, buddy? How are you? Tyler says, good, chomping at the bit for camp to start. We are a week away, less than that. The Cowboys' first practice is Thursday, and I will be there Sunday. So, yeah, the time for training camp is here. And it's funny because, like, even though it's not the official start of the season, it really kind of is. Like, the season starts that way. Millie Lev says, hi and good luck. Thank you very much. TJ Carpenter says, no! Okay. It's very, you were answering my question. You were answering the question, which is, will the Cowboys win a Super Bowl by 2021? And you might be looking at that thinking, it's kind of a random question. Why on earth would he pose that question? And, well, there's a very important reason for that. And that reason is that there was an article that came out from ESPN.com, Dan Graziano, who basically wrote about the future of the NFL and things that he's going to see happen by 2021. Predictions. He looked into his crystal ball. And so one of those things was that the Cowboys will win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years and that the Eagles won't. And let me see if I can try and bring it up here so I can just read for you verbatim what he was saying. I know TJ Carpenter is going to disparage the great work of the Dan Graziano, but TJ says I disagree with him. Brian Johnson says it seems unlikely. How are you, Brian? How are you, buddy? Seems unlikely. We got to do something for our buddy Eric. I don't know what he's going through right now, but it's not good. It seems unlikely. If you just think about the randomness of football, this would take a good team and a lot of luck. They have the players on offensive side of the ball, so it's not totally impossible. I mean, I think they have the players, period. Like, I think they have a ton of talent on offense. I've been on the record multiple times saying I think they're going to have a top 5 offense in the NFL, and I think their defense will be drastically better. I think they're going to have a really good defensive line. I really like their secondary. Really good young players. Chidobe Awuzie is a star in the making. Jordan Lewis is another really good player. So then their linebacking core certainly has some questions. Can Sean Lee stay healthy? But Leighton Vander Esch, their first-round draft pick, is a guy that could be effective, and I think is a really, really good modern day linebacker in pass coverage. All right, so here is in the article what Dan Graziano is saying, and I'm going to get to your comments here in a moment. Make sure to hit the share button. Post your comments, hit the share button no matter where you're watching. Law Nation, Silver and Blue Nation, Phantom, YouTube, Ari Temkin Radio, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. I mentioned YouTube. All right, so the whatever it is predictions for 2021, he says the Dallas Cowboys win one of the next 3 Super Bowls. He says it just feels as if people are sleeping on a team that went 9-7 last year, while its best player key to the offense was suspended for 6 games. Assuming Zeke Elliott plays all 16 games, there's no reason not to like the Cowboys as 2018 contenders. And with their dominant offensive line all under contract and Dak Prescott still on his rookie deal at quarterback, there's no reason to think there's any major drop-off coming in the short term. Okay, so if I may, the Dallas Cowboys will win one of the next 3 Super Bowls, and then basically being like, well, they're underrated. Doesn't really seem to jive. Like, it seems a bit odd, right? Like, he's basically, he didn't really make the argument that they're going to win a Super Bowl. He basically was like, yeah, everybody's undervaluing them, which I agree with, but that's not a compelling case for why they're going to win one of the next 3 Super Bowls. Lionel Montgomery says, hello, we will win a Super Bowl by 2021. I like Lionel Montgomery. I like his confidence. I don't know that I'm willing to say that the Cowboys will win a Super Bowl by 2021, but I think that a lot of people that think that it's the most outlandish thing that they've ever heard. Vincent Bobo on the Law Nation page says, Mississippi in the house, what up, what up? I mean, people that think it's outlandish or far-fetched, like they are going to have a top 5 offense in the NFL if Tyron Smith can play in 16 games. And they're going to have one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL if Zeke Elliott can play in 16 games. So it shouldn't be unreasonable to think that a team that has a top 5 offense would also be a team that could win a Super Bowl. I mean, I think one of the misconceptions about winning in the NFL is that you have to be really, really good on offense and really, really good on defense. And that's not necessarily the case. The majority of Super Bowl champions from the last decade were either top 5 in offense or top 5 in defense. And the majority of those teams were top 5 in offense. The exception in the last decade to that is TJ Carpenter. You know the answer to this? Of course you do. It's the Denver Broncos. The one exception to that over the last decade. You look at every other team to win a Super Bowl in the last decade, only the Broncos were top 5 in offense and not only the Broncos were top 5 in defense and not top 5 in offense. And on the other side of that, the majority of teams were top 5 in offense. Now, there's legitimacy in questioning, are they building the right way? Because, yeah, they built an offensive juggernaut, but they really didn't build a pass-happy type offense. Lily Lozano says, hola, Lily, how are you? TJ Carpenter says, I just need them to sweep the Astros. I don't know what that's in reference to. Steve Sosa in the house. How are you, Steve Sosa? TJ Carpenter says, no Dez. Yeah, I acknowledged that. Dez Bryant is gone. That, though, appears to have made them a better football team. At least that's what the Cowboys are selling it as, and I don't exactly disagree with that. T.J. Carpenter says Elliott fraud. Obviously, I mean he's really not actually a good football player. I think that's obvious if you've ever watched Zeke Elliott play. I mean he's basically a step below. Who's the Broncos running back? TJ. Brian Johnson says it's not outlandish in football. The Browns can win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years. It's football. Brian, that's crazy. That is outlandish and crazy, and it's not going to happen. Except that I love Baker Mayfield, and it could very well happen. Steve Sosa says, do people really think the Cowboys aren't a good team, or is it rooted in their hate for the Cowboys? I think it's part of the hate of the Cowboys. I also think, Cowboys are severely underrated. I think Zeke Elliott is severely underrated. I think Dak Prescott is severely underrated. I think the Cowboys' offensive line is probably severely underrated. Zach Rosenberg in the house. Katrina Russell watching. How are you? How's everybody doing? Hit the share button. Post your comments. Larry Manick says that Eagles defense is going to be hard to beat, not to mention strong offense. Yeah, it's funny. We did some crosstalk this morning on the morning show with G-Bag Nation on 105 through the Fan, and Jeff Kavanaugh, who I respect the hell out of, especially from a Super Bowl or from a football opinions perspective. He was basically saying, aside from the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are more talented than the Cowboys in literally every area. What makes you think that they're better than them or in better position to win a Super Bowl? And especially because the article said the Cowboys will win one of the next 3 Super Bowls and the Eagles won't. And I mean, I think I agree with that point to a point. I mean, they're better at running back. I certainly think you could say Carson Wentz is better at quarterback, though I think if you look at the composition, you look at the stats back to back, right next to each other, they're comparable, Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz over the first 2 seasons. And I think like we are underplaying the psychology, the psychological aspect of what's going to go down in that Eagles locker room this entire season. I think it's a very combustible situation. You know, I just don't see, if Carson Wentz comes back and he's not fully healthy and he starts to throw some picks. I mean, Nick Foles led the NFL in merchandise sold for the third quarter of 2017 and the first quarter of 2018. I mean, so you've got Foles, who's Super Bowl MVP, who's selling a lot of merch. Like he might have deferred his ego, but I just, man, it's hard for me to think that like Carson Wentz is going to start like kind of looking behind him, and there's Nick Foles like. So, Zach Rosenberg says no, the Cowboys won't win a Super Bowl by 2021. TJ's right. There's certainly concerns at the tight end position, but literally who doesn't have at least one or two holes in their team? I mean, the Broncos have like 12 holes in their team. VB Issei says they're going to be in the playoffs. That is what I have. What I've argued all off season. I mean, I think the number I've been looking at is over under 9.5 wins, and I do the Cowboys Beat podcast, which you could check out on iTunes. I had a new episode that dropped this morning. Check it out. Tom Ryle from Blog of the Boys was my guest. But I've done 11 episodes of that podcast this offseason, and I've asked every one of my guests over under 9.5 wins, and it's probably been split 50-50 as far as who takes the over, who takes the under. I go over. I think the Cowboys are at 10 or 11 wins this year. And to me, it's simple. And I'll continue to repeat this. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. They have the best running back in football, in my opinion, in Zeke Elliott. And that those two things alone will give them one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL. I think it'll open up some of the passing game. I mean, they're not going to be elite in the passing game, but that's okay because they are going to be elite in the running area, in the running game. And because they had the zone read so effective, Larry Maddox's great podcast. Thank you, buddy. Because the zone read has been so effective for Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott in the red zone, they're going to score a lot of points. Brian D. Johnson says, I'm marking this down. Haha, we'll talk to you in 2 years about the Browns. They have to be good eventually. Look at the Jags. Now the 49ers turn around. The Rams were terrible. Now they're really good. By the way, the 49ers are not going to be good this year. Jimmy G is paying for porn stars. Jimmy Garoppolo is paying for porn stars to go on dates with him. And the 49ers, to me, are the classic pick where they finished strong the previous year and then people believe in the carryover effect, even though there's no evidence to support that. And, I mean, Jimmy G was going up for the first time against defenses that had never seen him running a Kyle Shanahan offense. I like Kyle Shanahan, but I just think they are going to be everybody's favorite pick. I mean, they're probably going to be a Super Bowl pick for people, and it's just going to be one of those, like, teams that everybody thinks is going to be good, that it's not going to be as good because, again, the evidence suggests that there's no carryover. There's no momentum shift from one season to the next in the NFL. What link did you just send me, TJ? Opposing fans keep invading the Jerry Dome and the Cowboys are not happy about it. What is that article from 2016, TJ? Was that like a 3-year-old article you sent me? Wade Zetterberg in the house. What up, Wade? He says, Wentz had a fluke season and won't come back from his injury the same. He's done. Foles played out of his mind and can never repeat that effort. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far with you, buddy, but I do think that people that are downplaying the psychological aspects that's going to play into this season, like there's a lot. Howie Roseman, I think I have a ton of respect for him. He is a tremendous football mind and has been very savvy. But the one move I thought they should have made was getting rid of Foles. Now, granted, maybe they didn't because they're worried about Wentz's comeback. But I just would hate to have that whole dynamic in my locker room. By the way, I'm Ari Temkin, as you can see below me. I am with 105 through the Fan in Dallas. You can also hear me on the Cowboys pre- and post-game show. And then stream me every day right here on Phantom, the new world order of sports media, facebook.com/watch Phantom. Hit the share button, post your comments, join the discussion. I'm asking you a very simple question. Do you believe the Dallas Cowboys will win a Super Bowl by 2021? Because that was what Dan Graziano wrote about in ESPN's article, basically looking ahead in his crystal ball to 2021. And he suggested the Cowboys were going to win a Super Bowl by 2021 and the Eagles would not. Lionel Montgomery on the Silver and Blue Nation page says, we get a better defense this year and our offense is top 5. Do we get any chance to get Earl Thomas? 11-5 at the least. Tavon Austin will make our new offensive explosive. Okay, so a lot there. I'm going to say I took the over at 9.5. I'm going to say 10, 11 wins is what I think the Cowboys are at. Now, here's the caveat to that. The NFC is really good this year. Like, really good. Like, let's just go through the NFC, shall we? NFC South. The National Football Conference South. Just want to make sure I have all the teams up so I can make sure. So the NFC South has the Saints. They're a really good team. The Panthers, pretty good team. Falcons, pretty good team. And then the Buccaneers, not good. So that's 3 of 4 are potentially playoff teams out of that conference, all right? The NFC East. Cowboys and Eagles are good. You can make your arguments for the Giants and Redskins, but that's at least half of the division, 2 of 4. NFC North, Packers are good, we know that. Vikings are good, we know that. Bears are good, better. Probably not a playoff team, improved from where they were last year. And then who am I missing? The Lions. That's at least 3 of 4 teams could be playoff teams out of that out of that division. NFC West. Rams are really good. Rams are loaded. Rams are damn loaded. Seahawks will be down this year. Probably not a playoff team. Again, I'm not thinking very highly of the Niners. And then the Cardinals. So that's probably the worst division in the NFC. The NFC West. If I missed any divisions. So out of all of them, I mean, you're talking about 3 teams in the South, 3 teams in the North, 2 teams in the East that can make the playoffs. So, I mean, to me, the NFC is loaded. So, I think the talent on this team is good enough for the Cowboys to, win 10 or 11 games, but they have to play the NFC South. They have to play every team in easily the toughest division in football. They have to play the AFC South, which has the Texans, which are pretty good. The Titans made the playoffs last year. The Jaguars made the playoffs last year. I mean, that's a 2 playoff team division last year. So it's funny because I think the Cowboys were a 10-11 win team, but at the same token, like that schedule is tough. The conference is tough. And, obviously there are things that go well beyond what, how we think that this thing will be drawn out. Wade Zetterberg says Jimmy G's off-the-field life is the only thing that could stop him. He's the real deal in terms of the quarterback spot. I don't know, Wade. Perhaps he is. But I also think like he was so good at the second half of last year when teams hadn't seen him before. Teams have a year of film to look at now, or some games of film to look at in an entire offseason. I mean, let's see. I mean, maybe he will be good. But at the same time, he hired a escort who's a porn star to go on a date with him, which to me, I mean, he's a good-looking dude. You really need to hire her? Brian D. Johnson, will Tom Brady still be playing in 2021? I mean, he probably. Steve Sosa says they're going to win it all this year, shock the world. Zetterberg says by 2021, I think he's talking about Brady because he's a Patriots fan. Loser. And short, no. Long answer, hell no. About Brady playing by 2021? Maybe not. Maybe he will be. Jimmy G. Spot goes on the date with MILF of the Year award winner ahead of horny Niners training camp. By the way, TJ, I just want to fact check you a little bit there. She was up for MILF of the Year, and it was Cougar of the Year, and she didn't get it. So just want to make sure we're completely accurate here on Phantom. She was up for MILF of the Year, Cougar of the Year, but did not actually get the award. So let's not give her the award. She didn't get it. But she has played a lot of MILFs. She's played a lot of MILFs. Wade Zetterberg says he tutored under the GOAT. Yeah, so did Ryan Mallett. Law's in the house. What up, Law Nation? How are you, buddy? Everybody, Law, when do you do your live stream at 6 o'clock every day? Everybody check out Law Nation's page. I'm broadcasting live on Law Nation's page. That dude is the real deal. He's fantastic. Great insight, great info, great voice, too. Law's got a great voice. Sounds like the dude from There's Something About Mary and a bunch of other movies. But Law does unbelievable work, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 6 o'clock Central every day. You want to get great Cowboys, another great Cowboys stream, check out Law Nation, his stream every day at 6 o'clock right here on Phantom, on Law Nation, Silver and Blue Nation, Big Game James. We're all one big happy family here. And I'm trying to think if Big Game does something daily on a consistent basis. But you constantly, if you're following Big Game James's page or anybody else's, you're going to get a lot of great content. A lot of great Cowboys content. How dare you insult Ryan Mallett? Well, look, he was good at Arkansas. He's tall. He comes from the Brock Osweiler school of being tall. What other backup quarterbacks to the GOAT have been horrible in the NFL? Ryan Mallett's the first one that comes to mind. Brian Hoyer, another one. Wade Zetterberg, where does Cougar and MILF blur, and where do they separate? Is there a specific age? That's a good point. I think, I don't know. TJ, do you have any rules on this? Do you know about that? TJ's the one into MILFs and Cougars, so I'm not sure. Would love to hear you explaining looking up MILF stats to your wife. I better quiet down a little bit so that I don't have to have that. Lionel Montgomery on the Silver and Blue Nation page says, first 5 or 6 games are tough. Yeah, and the thing about the Cowboys' schedule, if we're going to switch gears a little bit from MILF Cougar discussion, is Cougars leave the den. That's good. Garrett Gilbert is in the NFL? My God. Chris Bennett making Chris Bennett in the house. Let's see here. Philip Smith said, we're the best O-line last year, so how are they the best this year? Stop saying that. Philip Smith, were they the best O-line last year, so how are they the best this year? Seriously, dude? Well, so 2 years ago, the Cowboys had the best offensive line in football. By the way, Jenna Garcia with the slam dunk. MILFs have to be mothers. Cougars do not. Great point. It's a prerequisite to be a MILF. You have to be a mother. Ergo, the mother I'd like to. Cougars, however, don't have that. But as for Philip Smith's comment about were they the best offensive line last year, how are they going to be the best this year? Well, okay, 2 years ago they were the best offensive line in football, but then they lost their right tackle in Doug Free and their left guard in Ronald Leary, and they didn't do an adequate enough job replacing those guys going into last year. So you're right, Philip. They were not the best offensive line in football last year. However, they added Connor Williams in the draft, who they're going to slide over to left guard, and Lyle Collins, who played right tackle last year, but had a uneven season. Philip, he was really bad at first, but then by the end of the season, second half of the season, he turned it on and was really, really good, especially like the last quarter of the season. So, I mean, you have perennial All-Pros Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and Tyrod Smith are 3 of the best 5 at their positions in the NFL. And then you add in a rookie at Connor Williams, who I think very highly of, very athletic guard, can get out in space and block and get out in front. And then I think Lyle Collins really finished the season strong. So I feel pretty confident saying that I believe the Cowboys' offensive line will be the best in football in 2018. Shazette Ali joining the show. What up, Shazette? How are you, buddy? Texas fan here, so unbiased about the Cowboys. Great O-line and Z could lead to ball control offense, but the lack of weapons is concerning. Sure, and I see that. But I think they've got a good complement of guys. I mean, I think there are going to be games in which they're going to struggle because of their lack of a number one option and lack of a guy that down the stretch that they can go to. But I mean, I think the majority of games they're just going to be able to run all over teams and then allow that to open up the pass for Cole Beasley. I think Cole Beasley will be their leading receiver this year. He's not going to be their number one, but he's going to have the most targets, most receptions, and I think most yards for the Cowboys this year. Carlos Martinez says, please, that's funny. It's like saying that the Cleveland Browns will go undefeated and win it all. Please? You're saying, will the Cowboys win a Super Bowl by 2021 is like saying that the Browns will go undefeated and win it all? I'm going to go ahead and disagree and say that those are not even close to being the same things. Also, Carlos, appreciate your chiming in. This was in reference to an article written at ESPN.com, which made the proclamation looking into the future that the Cowboys will win one of the next 3 Super Bowls. And, I haven't answered the question yet, and I guess I'll just say yes. Why not? Because I think the Cowboys are a playoff team this year. But I do have one major concern about their ability to try to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years. But if the Cowboys to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years is the same as the Browns going undefeated and winning it all, those two things are not the same. TJ Carpenter, a cougar is a wildcat that will rip your face off, and also animals. Sounds hot. And Wade Zetterberg says, and also pay your electric bill. TJ Carpenter, MILF Island. Shut up and take my money. I want to go to MILF Island. What's happening here? How did this happen? You make one offhanded remark about a nice woman that Jimmy Garoppolo took out for a nice meal, and all of a sudden you're ending up on MILF Island, according to TJ Carpenter. All right, I'm Ari Temkin. We're live on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media. I'm posing this simple question to you. Do you believe the Cowboys will win a Super Bowl by 2021? Something that was posited by Dan Graziano of ESPN.com. He did an article that centered on the future of football. And one of the points that he made was that he believed that the Cowboys would win one of the next 3 Super Bowls, and that the Eagles wouldn't. And his rationale for it was basically like, well, they're underrated, and Zeke's really good, and their O-line's really good. And it's like, yeah, those things are true, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win a Super Bowl, though. And, you know, again, I'm on the record. I'm sticking by it. I think the Cowboys are a playoff team this year. But as far as answering the question that I've asked, will they win one in the next 3 years? To me, the biggest thing that could get in the way of that happening is their head coach. Their head coach is the one thing where it's like, I don't know about that. Can they win with a below-average head coach? Can they win with, you know, just your run-of-the-mill, mediocre, everything by the book head coach? That is where I have major questions. I don't know. Like, I think you can have success throughout the course of a regular season with an inadequate head coach or a less than average head coach. I'm not certain that you can win a Super Bowl with one. Now, you might look at Gary Kubiak or I'm trying to think. John Fox didn't win one. Jeff Fisher didn't win one, but they got there. Because I think in the playoffs, you know, when you play 16 weeks, your flaws are out there for everybody to see and know. And so when you get into the playoffs and, you know, teams will look to exploit what those weaknesses are. And, I mean, Jason Garrett, you know, the MO of him is that he puts a game plan together, and then once he gets punched in the mouth, it's like, but he just can't evolve. He can't, you know, he can't evolve. He's not good at making decisions on the fly. And so, you know, I think that could potentially be a fatal flaw for a highly talented team that, you know, when they get to the playoffs. Wade Zetterberg says best chance for the Cowboys, they go 11-5 and get knocked out of the conference championship game against the Niners. Yeah, I mean, it's been 2 decades since the Cowboys have even been to an NFC championship game. So, yeah, Chris Bennett says it. Does Dallas make an NFC title by 2021? They haven't been since 1996. I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks, yeah, they could win a Super Bowl by 2021, but then the other part of me thinks, yeah, I'm going off of talent. As far as coaching is concerned, I don't really have much confidence that Jason Garrett can get them over the hump, can make the decisions that might make up for some of inefficiencies throughout a game or inadequacies throughout a game. Kevin Carey says, agreed, but I believe off of talent you can win. We won with Barry Switzer as head coach. No Jimmy Johnson, but we won with him. Yeah, that's true, but they'd won a couple of Super Bowls. So, I mean, that was a team that had been to the mountaintop. So it's a little bit different, right? I mean, when you have a team with a bunch of experienced guys that have won Super Bowls, you can probably overcome bad coaching. And I don't even think Switzer's not Jimmy Johnson, but he's not Jason Garrett. Let's see here. La Nation on his page saying congratulations again, Ari. I appreciate you saying that, brother. Let's see. Let me just get caught up in Big Game James is watching as well. DeMarcus Stokes says our offense is good. Just think about the Rams in Minnesota. No Green Bay, no number one. Everyone gets the ball there. Vincent Bobo says 12-4. DeMarcus Stokes says 10-6. Hell, I want to say 11-5, but we always give a game away. Vincent Bobo says defense is fast and young. Golden turnovers. DeMarcus Stokes says I hope the play calling not so predictable. LOL. Yeah, I think. I mean, if you're waiting for Jason Garrett to be something that he's never been, you're going to be waiting for a long time. You know, I'm struggling to say that the Cowboys will win a Super Bowl by 2021 because I'm struggling to buy Jason Garrett as making up for some of the inadequacies he has as a head coach. He is not forward thinking from an analytical, piece. He is, I mean, just compare him with Doug Peterson, right? And going for it on fourth down consistently from the opposite side of the 50. Not always running the ball on first down. Just different little things where it's like, if we're going to sit here and wait for him to become somebody else when he hasn't been for 8 years, this is who he is, then we're going to be waiting for a long time. I'm Ari Temkin, by the way. You can hear me on 105.3 The Fan and on the Cowboys pre- and post-game show on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. You can also see me in color live on Phantom every day at noon Central right here on Phantom at facebook.com/Watch Phantom. I'm also broadcasting live on our partners pages at Law Nation. Go check out the great work that Law Nation does over there on YouTube and on Facebook, Silver and Blue Nation. Big Game James, producer G, they do some fantastic work over there, and on the Big Game James page as well. Jessica Haggerty says hello. Actually, she just waved. She didn't say hello. She waved. So, Jessica, how are you? Let me just scroll through here. B. Swizz was the man. Yeah. Larry Maddox says, who would be your choice to replace Garrett? How about, why do I keep thinking, not Lane Kiffin, why am I, Lincoln Riley. How about Lincoln Riley? Which, by the way, a couple of weeks ago I said that on The Fan, and somebody texted and was like, thought that was the craziest thing they'd ever heard. And I was like, maybe you disagree with it, but to say that Lincoln Riley could be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys is the most outrageous thing you've ever heard. Like that doesn't fit, doesn't make any sense. Daniel Bania says, what up, Ari? How are you, Daniel? No, not Josh McDaniels. Lincoln Riley. That's my guess. Lincoln Riley. Here's the deal about Lincoln Riley. NFL offensive coordinators, NFL head coaches have spent this offseason going to study under Lincoln Riley. And when you look at, you've got Matt Nagy and Sean McVay and, the young, offensive-minded head coach, that is where a lot of teams are going now. And, there's a lot of them, not beyond McVay. So, to me, he's a guy that, and let's see what kind of success he has at OU this year. They had Baker Mayfield last year, so maybe a part of Lincoln Riley's success was tied into Baker Mayfield. So let's see if he can work his magic again with a different quarterback. All right, what else do you guys think? Hit the share button. Post your comments. Also, you can check me out on Twitter. I am at Ari Sports, ARI Sports. It's pretty simple. Jalen Smith will be the next Ray Lewis. Vincent Bobo says that. Vincent, I'd temper expectations a wee bit there. And DeMarcus Stokes says, I can see that, no brace. Here's the thing. I will believe that Jalen Smith is brace-free when I see it. Not in practice and through these videos, guys. Like, let's see him on the field with pads on. Not during minicamp where they're not wearing any pads. That's going to be the true indicator. The brace gives us an idea of if he can feel his foot. Remember, he had the nerve damage. He couldn't feel his foot, no feeling his foot, which means he couldn't go sideline to sideline. These are all things. That was some of the biggest reasons he was, he struggled so much last year. But here's the other thing, too. To call him Ray Lewis, that's such a disservice to a guy that just to be back on the field, for Jalen Smith to get back on the field in an NFL game, that is a tremendous accomplishment. For him to just be back on the field. There are very few people that have come back and played in an NFL game after suffering the injury that Jalen Smith suffered. So, and I think he's going to be in much better position this year because he's going to be basically an extra defensive end. They're going to get him going downhill a lot, attacking the quarterback at the line of scrimmage. And I think the ability, having a guy like Leighton Vander Esch, having guys like Sean Lee that can defend the pass well, that allows them to sort of work on strings, right? Where Jalen Smith goes to the quarterback, Sean Lee backpedals. Al Ramirez says, what's the deal with Earl Thomas? The deal is the Cowboys want to trade for him, but the Seahawks don't want to trade him. So, the deal with Earl Thomas is that this deal has stalled because the Seahawks don't want to trade him. Ryan Humpert says, yes, if they fire Garrett and fix the middle of that D-line. Man, I agree with that 100% as far as, will the Cowboys win a Super Bowl by 2021? If they fired Garrett and fixed the middle of the D-line, they would win a Super Bowl by 2021. I'll just take one of those, Ryan. If they fired Garrett, they'd probably be in good position to win a Super Bowl by 2021. The problem is, if they make the playoffs this year, they're not going to fire him, regardless of anything else that happens after that. If the Cowboys make the playoffs this year, Jason Garrett will be back for the foreseeable future. Jenna Garcia says we want Kawhi. Wade Zetterberg says McDaniels is a top choice over any coach in the game. Young, offensive-minded, winning tradition, experience unmatched. My Patriots fade away after the season. Also, your Patriots don't really go on as assistant coaches to be successful elsewhere. Kevin Carey says 12-4. I really believe this will be a record. What does Garrett do after there's always talks of him being fired? They'll be back in the playoffs. And what have the Cowboys done in every other year? Ryan Humpert, Ari, you never saw Jalen play at ND for sure. If his knee is fine and drop foot, then there's no reason to doubt that. He was a beast and is seeming to be back healthy. Yeah, man, I saw Jalen Smith play at Notre Dame, and if your expectations are that he can get back to that, man, I just don't know that that's going to happen ever. He had severe nerve damage. He can't feel his foot. You mentioned drop foot. That's the brace. That means he can't feel his foot. So, I mean, Cowboys wanted him to go sideline to sideline last year, and he couldn't feel his foot. How stupid is that? So if he's going downhill, he'll be fine. Now the question is, will he be able to feel his foot this year? Now, we won't know that until we see either him with the brace or without the brace. But and the truth of the matter is, he might never feel his foot again. It just might be about his ability to get comfortable without being able to feel his foot. So I just... he's not going to get back to the player that he was at Notre Dame. If he was, he would have been a top 5 pick. He was a top 5 pick before he suffered that injury. The reason he fell to the Cowboys in the second round was because of that injury. And what's crazy is I wonder how much further he would have fallen had the Cowboys not taken him. Now, the Cowboys said they took him at that spot because they didn't think he'd last another round. I don't know that I buy that, but if they wanted him that badly and they went and took him, then I'm not going to be upset with them for taking him. El Ramirez says DBs and safeties will improve highly this season. DBs, yes. Safeties, not, unless they get Earl Thomas. But I mean, Kevin Carey says Xavier Woods will be fine. I don't know about that. Jeff Heath will be fine. Their corners will be fine. I'm not ready to say that Xavier Woods will be fine. A lot of talent and upside with him, potential, but we'll see. Now, look, he's got the right coaching staff to guide him, but we have to remember here that when you're a fan of a team, all of the unknowns, Jalen Smith is an unknown, the secondary is an unknown, those all from a fan's perspective tend to work out positively, right? So as we project out into the season, it's Jalen Smith is going to be healthy and really, really good, and look at that secondary. I mean, Jordan Lewis is going to take a major step, and Chidobe Awuzie is what we do as fans is we take these major leaps because we want them to, and not based on anything that's factual or scientific, and maybe with Lewis and Awuzie, we have enough evidence to support the fact that they're going to take major jumps forward. But all I'm saying is, going into last year, it was like Anthony Brown had a tremendous rookie year, and look at how much of a step back he took in year 2. So, we shouldn't, as fans, just constantly project out positively. We should try to answer as many factually based questions that we can answer as it pertains to the team, and then go into the season with this is how many question marks they have, how many can they fail at, and how many can they overcome. Ryan Hubbard says, I think we should have taken Hurst over Schultz, big value at 4th round. I do think, man, that's one of their major question marks, the tight end position. I have a lot of confidence in some of their question marks, but the tight end position is one that it's ooh, they're going to take a major step back. And with Witten, Witten was older, right? And for sure, but he was just such an effective blocker and such an effective pass catcher that, normally if you've got a guy that's really effective in blocking or really effective in pass catching from that position, you kind of give away to the defense what you're doing based on their being out there. With Witten, you never did, right? Because he was so good at both. That's the problem the Cowboys now find themselves in. They've got either a blocker or a pass catcher at the tight end position. Kevin Carey says Chris Richard will have them ready. Yeah, look, but he can only coach, right? He can't step on the field and make them make plays. Now, with all that being said, I do think that the Cowboys are a 10-11 win team, but I also think, I believe their defense will be improved, but will it be, how improved will it be? How effective will it be? That's sort of the major question. I think I think the Cowboys are a playoff team because of their offense. I think their defense will be improved again. I want to say that. But I'm maybe not as confident in their defense as some of the other people are. Big Game James saying what up on his page. What up, Big Game James? How are you, brother? Justin White says, yeah, why not? This team went 9-7, missing the biggest piece of their offense for a third of the season. We're going to the playoffs unless another recipe for disaster is cooked up. What would be a recipe for disaster? So I guess that's the other thing, right? Like, if you're a Cowboys fan, what would be, like, worst-case scenario for the season? Like, what could go wrong that would completely change this thing for the worse for them? To me, it's Tyron Smith. And it's not whether or not he can stay healthy. We need to get away from that. He's not going to be healthy, Tyron Smith. He's got a bad back. The more he plays games in the National Football League, the more unhealthy he's going to be. But if he can just overcome the pain and play 16 games, which is a huge ask, I understand that. But if he does, then, that's the biggest question that I have. Ryan Humphrey says biggest mistake is moving Crawford to end and not where he excels at the tackle. He made plays inside and outside he's average. Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's going to play both this year if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they moved him outside exclusively or if they did move him outside and then they moved him back inside. I also like Jihad Ward. I mean, I think their defensive line is going to be good. I do. I think their defensive line is going to be good. Even if DeMarcus Lawrence doesn't have 14.5 sacks this year. Kevin Carey says Woods would have had more tape, but he was used more in nickel situations. With Richards, he will be played where he was drafted to be played, and just needs more opportunities. Yeah, no, look, I'm not going to be completely down Xavier Woods. I'm just saying, like, he's a major unknown in this piece, playing an important position. And, Earl Thomas to me would be perfect for the Cowboys. The perfect guy in the perfect situation. The perfect time. Because even if, and maybe they have to sign him to a long-term deal, a 3-year deal in order to get him. But even if you just trade a third-round pick for him and don't even extend him, I mean, maybe you just need a 1-year guy before you bridge the gap to Woods. But just to have Earl Thomas, because that's the thing, like Earl Thomas knows Chris Richard's schemes pretty well. And so to have him as sort of a coach on the field that knows what Chris Richard wants to do better than anybody else, there's so much value in that. But everything that we've heard is that it's not really up to the Cowboys on Earl Thomas, that at this point, Seattle has just closed up shop. And then I wonder if it's like just to spite the Cowboys because Earl Thomas wants to go play for the Cowboys or what it is. But it's just bizarre that a team that's rebuilding, that's shed a lot of these veteran players, is now willing or needs to keep this guy. That's the thing that I find sort of puzzling about this whole situation. Wade Zetterberg says, Sean Lee, what's his status? Wade Zetterberg says, detriment doesn't equal unknown. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Can you expand on that? Sean Lee's healthy. That's his status, and you hope he can stay healthy. And there's really nothing more to say about that, although it seems like the Cowboys are in better position to replace him with their first-round draft pick, Leighton Vander Esch, than they've been in recent years. But, I mean, Sean Lee is still one of the best linebackers in the NFL when healthy. The problem is, I mean, when was the last time he was healthy for an entire season, if ever? So, I mean, he's consistently missed time for them, and it sucks because he's so good. All right, what else we got, everybody? Post your comments, hit the share button. Let's talk Cowboys right here on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media. Otherwise, we're just going to take off, maybe take a nap or something. Well, with getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day this week, that is tough. Let me just check this out. All right, I'm Ari Temkin, live on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to be back on Monday at 12 o'clock. Plenty of more Cowboys discussions to get to. Again, make sure to check out my man Law Nation, who'll be live later on this afternoon, about 6 o'clock on all these pages, broadcasting live, talking Cowboys. Coming up next, though, it's the noon o'clock with TJ Carpenter right here on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media, right here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere. And also, a reminder, check out my podcast, The Cowboys Beat. You can download it on iTunes, Stitcher, the CLNS Media app, wherever you download podcasts. Check it out, Cowboys Beat. Great stuff this week with Tom Ryle, Vlog and the Boys. And I talk about reasonable expectations for Randy Gregory, and the running back position, which starts and ends with Zeke Elliott. All right, but for now, I'm out. Peace. Thanks.